Hey everybody, it's Jillian. Wow. So, I'm going through all this fun stuff, right? Just my day-to-day stuff and you look at what other people are going through that are not even affiliated with the Jilly Juice world, just out there in the mainstream and I still have people from high school and people from junior high that are on my Facebook, and I really don't talk to them really. So I just more of like a peripheral. I just kind of see people through their postings. And someone that I knew personally from like God from like grade school, like first, second, third, fourth grade, and then knew them better in junior high, and then I went off to a different high school and stuff. But somebody in my age group, maybe a year or so younger than me, has come down with pancreatic cancer. And that's kind of jolting because I'm looking at my age group. I mean, I'm 45. I'll be 46 in February. So I just turned 45. And this is the start, I mean, if it's not sooner, this is the start of when the body is breaking down due to the accumulation of bacterias, pathogens, antibodies that agglutinate and then shapeshift into another disease. And this person is in the holistic world, in the psychotherapy world, in the holistic world. And I already know what direction he's going to be going into. He's already surrounded himself, and he is surrounded himself by the holistic world. They're going to throw all of the different protocols, whether it's from, hey, Judy, whether it's from medical medium, whether it's some other type of detox. He is going to have so many different people give him antibiotic protocols. Maybe he'll do a diet change, maybe, but even then that's very superficial. Because if you don't fix the mutations and fix your gut, you could do a diet change. You might get superficial results, but it's like a stay of execution. It's not going to stop the inevitable if you're not going to attack this type of cancer, whatever it is, whether it's pancreatic cancer or anything, the right way. And this is where like I'm so conflicted, because we have this thing with the whole thing with Bruce Wilmot and the whole pancreatic cancer, and he was on his last legs, gone through the last stages to where it wouldn't matter really what he did because the cancer is so strong that it's going to have you crave fruit juice. You're going to be in so much pain because your body is trying to heal. And so what does anyone who doesn't really understand the role of pain and what not to do, they're going to go and fall for whatever the body is craving. And at the time when you're full of cancer or parasites, you're going to be falling for whatever those entities are craving. So, when you watch somebody pass away, and people have, I mean, some of you have been around somebody that's been in hospice, that you watch them become more emaciated as they progress further into the disease. Because yes, someone told me when they watch somebody die of whatever cancer that they do look dehydrated. They do look like they are being eaten from the inside out. And yes, that would actually be true when you have so much yeast, because remember, your body has living cells, of course. I mean, you have the yeast, which somebody told me in my world that they also are characterizing the yeast as a probiotic. But I don't want you guys to start characterizing yeast as a probiotic, because then you have people that are saying that, I had a yeast infection, I had this infection, a yeast this, yeast that, too much this, too much that, and then it really confuses things. So, but your body is supposed to have a certain amount of yeast, but when that yeast gets overfed, okay, that's when then it turns into then the other names like candida, cancer, other types of names that are then used in the holistic allopathic. So yeah, when you have so much yeast, it's eating you from the inside out. It's overtaking your organs. it's causing more mutations. And then also too, parasites, which are really aren't the biggest focus in the holistic allopathic. Parasites, they do talk about it, but they more gear it towards the people who are going overseas with the exotic diseases, the exotic illnesses. They're like, oh yeah, you have a parasite infection because you went to like Africa or you went to Asia. And so that's how everyone's been associating parasites is with people who've gone overseas in exotic countries. They don't realize that we hold parasites here in American soil, but no one really wants to focus on that. And it makes you wonder why, but I'm not even going to speculate why. Maybe because it is more scary than not, okay, that we do have liver flukes, we do have tapeworms, we do have all these types of little parasites that do live in our body. And then, of course, when you bring in the right countering forces, you can expel some of those parasites. And I've seen, little pin or some kind of worm come in and out of my skin when I was a kid. That was back in the 80s. Haven't seen it since. Haven't seen any pinworms in my body ever since I was a kid. So that was something that I dealt with as a child, but have not seen anything. Now, since doing the J juice and triggering the autophagic waterfalls, I did see some weird stuff in my poop, but I can only speculate. It's not like I have an electron microscope to then say, well, I see the eyes and the face and the, and the hair or whatever, right? So I'm not going to say that I know for sure that I have parasites, but if you look up human parasites on the internet and then you kind of look at your poop, if you want to look at your poop, you can sort of make the connection, but then how do you confirm it? Well, you have to send it to a lab, but would the lab really tell you? Does the lab test for that? So it's more like, okay, you just kind of make the connections that when you are around animals, you get scabies. If someone has scabies, it's a type of worm. It's a parasite from an animal. I mean, it's not too hard to make the connections that if you're not activating your immune system the correct way, you're going to be harboring little entities in your body that really don't belong. So, when somebody is dealing with cancer, most likely they have parasites in their body as well. And that's just not a pretty thing to really talk about. It's not something you want to bring up to somebody that has this type of issue, because it's difficult alone knowing that you have now an expiration date. Like, your expiration date. And so I'm just like, I know this person. I haven't known them for a while. I mean, they've gone on with their life, but there's no way I'm going to be introducing the JGS protocol. And this is what sucks, is because like my hands are tied with those that are dealing with these diseases, because really, if they come upon my information and they like it and they want to do it, great. Will I offer to anybody? No. And the reasoning is because I know the climate out there. As soon as you offer somebody a woo-woo type of protocol, it's going to get immediately dismissed because it doesn't fit within the guidelines of the common thought process that's out there. So this is more of a lesson for all of you, okay? There is no way I can save this person, of course. There's no way I could save anybody that's on those types of trajectories where they only believe in a very narrow point of view. So this is more of a lesson to all of you. You don't want to trigger that kind of cancer. You don't want to trigger anything that will put you in some kind of where you have to now go through major amounts of poisons and detoxes to get it stabilized. Because here's the thing, when you start incorporating detoxes and major amounts of therapies, your body may not be able to handle that antibody acquisition. Your body may not be able to handle that. Okay? And so what's going to happen is most likely this person will probably do a bunch of herbs. Yeah, I understand, Janie. I know. This person will probably do a bunch of herbs. Maybe they might do juicing of vegetables. I can almost guarantee you they're going to juice their fruit. I can almost guarantee you, because that's what people think, that eating fruit is the answer to great health. And it's a balance. Too much sugar feeds the cancer. Guess what? You have an imbalance. But this is the common thought process, is the fruits and vegetables are the only things that are the healthiest. And then people discount the salt, they discount the minerals, or if they do bring in the salts, it'll be like a Santos Bonacci thing where it's like the cell salts and that whole fad around cell salts. So it's like, you know, there you can almost see the predictability of how people are going to handle their cancers. And I'm 45. This person may be 44. I've always been a year ahead of the people that I used to go to school with. And I'm like, this is the time, you know, if not sooner, where people start dropping like flies. And some of you are, you know, biding your time. You're playing with the jelly juice. You're doing this, you're doing that, and that's fine. And you're probably buying yourself more time. But, you know, there comes a point in time where the body does its own thing based upon how many entities that have taken over. And if you're not really countering the negative elements that are over accumulating in your body, then guess what? It's going to take over. It's no different than when you invade a country. Okay? No different than when you invade a country. So, you know, let's say like China. Let's say China wanted to invade America. Well, they have like what, 1 billion people? They all came with their armies of 1 billion people in China came and invaded America. Guess what? They would have taken over America. I mean, they do it in different ways. They buy land and they take over our movies and sell us cheap Chinese goods. But really, you know, when you see it in a more of like a war type of situation, that's what these cancers do. They just overtake because nothing is countering. If we took all the guns away and we took all the men away and it's only women in America and we try to fight a male Chinese army, guess what? We're left defenseless. I mean, yeah, some of us can fight, but really we need both men and women to go and fight for America. So, you know, that's essentially what goes on with these cancer patients. And so, you know, I'm not looking forward to, I mean, and this person probably doesn't even know that I'm talking about him, and they may or may not know. Maybe somebody in his world, we have mutual friends that may watch this video and maybe not, because I'm not exactly super popular with a lot of my old mainstream friends because of all the publicity. But, you know, it would really, I don't know. If a person could just understand that you have to counter these types of elements, okay, with the right type of elements. But I don't even know how there's no way I can bring it to them. There's no way. So maybe they might, you know, someone might introduce this to somebody and then they might do it, they might not. But it doesn't even matter. I can't be focused on that, okay? But you guys have to understand, if you allow parasites, if you allow cancer or yeast, if you allow things that are like antibodies too. I mean, the three things, okay? Again, the three things, the trinity of life and the trinity of death, okay? Yeast, antibodies, and hormones. Any one of those three things, they become imbalanced where there's more yeast, there's more antibodies, and there's more hormones. Regardless, if there is so much more of those types of things and they're out of whack, guess what? That causes mutations. It causes mild ones, and then they become bigger because they then get compounded by every time you get sick, get exposed to a new pathogen, your body mutates, the pathogen mutates, the bacteria mutates, the antibodies agglutinate, turn into another disease. It attacks part of your body, your weaknesses, and then you start seeing your eyesight going, your hair falling out, your hair going gray, your skin going gray, you know, large circles under your eyes, dark circles under your eyes. Maybe you lose a lot of weight. Maybe you gain a lot of weight. Maybe you know, like I said, going blind, you're losing your hearing, having tinnitus. I mean, you name every single symptom out there, that's based upon the fact that you have major imbalances. And it's because you've allowed the yeast to get out of control, you've allowed the antibodies to get out of control, and you allowed your hormones to get out of control, or you're managing your hormones with some prescription drug that then is causing more antibodies, maybe feeding the yeast, and then it's causing an imbalance in your hormones, and there's where the side effects come in, okay? So So I'm not going to be focused on trying to save people that I know, but let these types of situations be a lesson of what not to do, of where not to enter into, and if you understand the role of strategic nutrition, and of course I'm biased, you're on Jillian Epperly's site, I'm doing dilly juice type of stuff, but if you understand the role of the right nutrition, you won't have to enter into these types of situations unbeknownst. I watch all of my high school friends. Some of them have been dealing with fibromyalgia for years. Some of them have been dealing with lupus for years. Some triggered rheumatoid arthritis, way later on in life in their 40s. It seems that that is the age for my generation, is around their 40s, if not earlier, because of the mutations that are being compounded every single generation. And then we have access to, of course, modern medicine to compound the issue. And then we have people who are sick, mutating diseases, warranting more vaccines, which inherently are not bad, but you're going to be exposed to the pathogen regardless. So it's like, no matter what, whether you get the vaccine or you get exposed in the community, you're now going to get mutated from that exposure. But now the difference is, are you going to reverse the mutations? Are you going to address the mutations? So that way you keep the antibodies at bay so they're not over accumulating. You keep your hormones at bay and you keep your yeast at bay. And then you got to go through the pain. Okay? So anyone that is sick is in constant pain because the body is trying to heal. Okay? I've been in constant pain this last week, 2 weeks, dealing with crap that I really had to face and figure out the last couple of years. Okay? And so, regardless of what anybody thinks of Jilly Juice, regardless, this is a sign of the times. When somebody my age is now being afflicted with pancreatic cancer, it doesn't have to be a death sentence, but it is at this point until the mainstream figures out that either they're going to go and succumb to all of these different cancer diseases and chronic illnesses. Yeah, they're going to go try to do all the holistic route and the herbs route, but then they're going to realize that that really is going to then expedite the death process, because the more antibodies that you take on, yeah, you might kill the cancer for a minute. Yeah, you might kill some pathogens and some viruses for a minute, but then it raises your immune system because you're creating antibodies, but it weakens your body to where then you allow more pathogens to come in. And then you get exposed to more pathogens, create more antibodies, you get mutated even more. So it chips away at the weaknesses already in your body. So just because you reversed or you have a little bit like a, remission in your cancer, or you reversed a specific symptom for a minute, or you cured it, doesn't mean that you actually got to the root and really took that fight on and reversed the whole issue. No, you just don't have that same symptom, but now you have more weaknesses that will eventually culminate into a different symptom, a different disease. And it isn't always a disease. Sometimes you just might see your eyesight going. Sometimes you just might see your hair fall out. Sometimes you might see your hearing go. Sometimes you might see, I don't know, back issues or hand issues, or who knows. I mean, you look at people who are in their 60s and 70s and they're dealing with arthritis and osteoporosis, and their hair is falling out and all these different things that happen as a person ages, and their skin gets so wrinkly, or they're just so morbidly obese, or they're so underweight. And so those are the signs that maybe you don't have a specific named disease that's so popular that has all these different foundations attached to it, but simply gaining more weight or losing more weight or having other neurological issues or just losing your eyesight, that shows that there's degradation going on because of the antibody accumulation that is chipping away at the weaknesses in your body. And so, humanity now has a choice. You can watch your friends go down that road and then you follow suit with them, or you say, hey, I have another idea. Do I face the pain? Is it worth it facing the pain? And that's the roads that we're now being faced with. You face the pain, or you anesthetize yourself and have a stay of execution, and then you roll the dice. See, when you anesthetize yourself, you roll the dice. When you actually face the pain, you realize there really isn't a fear of dying if you actually face the pain in the right way. I'm not saying, be in pain, but utilizing the wrong elements, okay? Because how many people want to face the pain and then use the wrong elements? Because what happens most likely, if you're using the wrong elements, it might take away the pain for just a minute. Because guess what you naturally do when you're when you say, oh, I'm going to face the pain, but then I'm going to take the wrong elements. Well, that's not really facing the pain, because you're taking a poison to then anesthetize yourself. Okay? When you truly want to face the pain, you'll be taking the right elements to elicit the pain, to understand the role of it, because there is a hormone that's involved. It's called the prostaglandin hormone, and there's a calcineurin hormone. It's part of the autophagy process, but the prostaglandin hormone really helps in the healing process, because it is a hormone that aids in that. There is a specific chemical reaction that does rebuild the cells, because there's hormones that can degrade you and give you kind of a stay of execution type of thing, and that's in fight or flight types of episodes. And there's hormones that can help rebuild the cells, and that's through the immune system, the innate and the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system is the blueprint of your body. The adaptive immune system helps you adapt to your current situations, which means that if you're mutated, it'll help you adapt to your mutations until you're ready to deal with them. Some people don't ever want to deal with their mutations. So what happens is those mutations compound and they become more complex and become more severe, until all of a sudden what their little issue of like a cold and a flu or a pain here and pain there has now turned into an autoimmune disorder. That's the natural progression when people want to anesthetize themselves and don't want to face the pain. It festers and it turns into a bigger issue. No different than anybody that just stuffs their feelings, that don't ever want to let their feelings out or ever want to deal with an issue that is like the big elephant in the room. That whole problem festers, and it then becomes bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden you then can't ignore it anymore, because it's so there in your face that you finally have to go and deal with it. And sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it's too late for some people. And so that's what, when you're being diagnosed with like pancreatic cancer, breast cancer, all the different stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cancers, that's letting you know that you've let your body go to a certain extent to where now it's going to be a harder hill to climb up. And when you get to the point of hospice, forget it. I mean, I don't want to say forget it, but it really is, because if you get to the point of hospice, then you've really tried to run away from the pain. You've really ignored the red flags, the lights on your dashboard. And so it's almost so this is why, for those of you out there, you're looking at your friends and family and you realize that you have people that are suffering some major aggressive diseases. It's valiant to try to introduce this to them as far as the J juice, but I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise it. And it sucks, because that if they understood that the role of pain is healing, and they could potentially reverse and get out of that hole, but they have let their life gone by to where they have mitigated pain to such an extent they ended up in this situation. And so these are people that are lessons to you. They're not someone that you can try to reverse. They're not someone that you can try to address. They're not someone that you can try to turn around. Because once you get to the point of where you're being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, stage 5, whatever, hospice, it would take something like a major resolve and a good support system. And right now, with the J juicers that we have right now, we don't have a good support system for people personally dealing with this, because you have one person in one household that knows jelly juice and everyone thinks that they're weird. And so you try to introduce to anyone this J juice that's in some kind of dire straits, the support system would tear you down before the person would be like, yeah, I want to do it. But the doctors, the family members will fight you. they will fight you. And so it's almost not even worth it. It's almost more like another example of what not to do. Another example for yourself, another example for maybe your kids, okay? But it's not something that any of us should take on. And that was my mistake back in the beginning, was taking that on, thinking that, this guy would get it, but no, he was too far gone. And not like he couldn't do it, but the pain is too much. The cravings for the sugar, too much. Still being on prescription drugs, too much. Okay? So, but hey, you learn and you live and you learn. At least I'm living, right? When someone is set to die, it's like they're set to die. And so let this be a lesson to all of you out there, who, regardless of who you are, whether it's my naysayers or my supporters, you may be very young. Some of you are very young. You have children. You're young mothers, so worried about the salt that it's going to kill people. But you have to realize this is more than just salt. This is actually a recipe with a chemical process. But I'm not going to belabor that, because I'm not trying to sell any of my naysayers on this. They'll get it or they don't, and they'll have a predictable life, whatever that is. But yeah, I mean, the evidence is out there. You guys can count everybody in your life that has some kind of condition. And those conditions, whether it's obesity, autism, whatever they are, all those conditions is a red flag of something bigger. And it's only a matter of time. Some of you are going to progress faster in your diseases. Some of you will progress slower. Maybe potentially you reverse them if you're giving them the right elements. But it's predictable. And then Crystal says, been there, done that. Empathy only goes so far, moving forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's something that that really just, I mean, I wouldn't think this guy, of all people, really nice guy, very nice guy. And I've known him ever since we were in grade school, and seeing him on Facebook and stuff, and seeing how successful his career is in the psychotherapy world, which is great. But when you play in that world, you're going to be staying in that world. So, hey, Patricia. And so, there's just no way that I could really, introduce this, not to his crowd. And he's been friends on my Facebook for a while, so I know he knows the controversy around this. Whether or not he wants to actually entertain it, I'll let him get the book, and then he can do this on his own. And sometimes maybe the people that, that you guys, just some of you, don't tell anybody that you're doing this. You just do it. Okay, now it's hard when you live with someone and they see you do it, and they have to live with the smell and all the waterfalls on it, which is I understand. But if you live alone and you're but then you're living alone and going through this, it's difficult. It's, no matter which way you look at Jilly Juice, it's difficult to implement regardless. So hopefully you have somebody in your life that understands this, is supporting you. And if you're sick, most likely you're not going to be alone. And if you are alone, then, and you're in hospice, it means that it's any day now. It's any day now. So, that was a sobering post that I saw, that I was just like, ugh. But, this is just another lesson. And so it's just something that we're going to all have to deal with. Remember, if you guys are doing J-Juice, okay, if you're all doing J-Juice, and you're living your best life and people around you are dropping like flies, it's something you're going to have to get used to, and it sucks. And so when I'm looking at the pancreatic cancer, what are the viruses that are involved? And I think one of them is like Hep A, Hep C, some kind of pylori, something pylori. Let's see. Yeah, Helicobacter pylori, a bacteria that is linked with stomach cancer and peptic ulcers, and then Porphyromonas gingivalis, an infection involving gum disease and poor dental hygiene. And yeah, I mean, if you are an international traveler too, you could be picking up bacteria, along the way as well. A second possible mechanism is that these bacterial infections lead to changes in the immune system. When the immune system is weakened or altered by infection, it doesn't work as well to defend the body against cancer. Okay? So what's more risk factors for pancreatic cancers like smoking, obesity, diabetes, and may further suppress the immune response, opening the door to opportunistic infections. Right, yeah, when your immune system is weakened, you're allowing more things to come in and you're not fighting it off. But then you have too much of a strong immune system, then you start aging, and then the antibodies that are agglutinating and accumulating, they weaken they chip away at your weakened organs and systems. So the idea that some bacterial infections can lead to certain cancers is not a new concept. Okay, so your bacterial infection, your antibodies that are down, cancer, what does cancer feed on? Sugars and sugar substitutes, heavy metals. Okay, so if your digestive system is not filtering properly, you're not expelling as much as you need, you're accumulating the heavy metals. Okay, because that's what heavy metal poisoning is that your filtration process is not working correctly. So you're accumulating heavy metals, and then the yeast then takes the heavy metals and it holds on to it. And so that's when the cancer also starts spreading, because your filtration process, your immune system isn't working correctly. Your systems are defunct. You're holding on to excess minerals that your body needs to release, causing then imbalances. And so then the yeast gets out of control, the antibodies get out of control too, because now you're taking in more pathogens. So then it creates more antibodies. But then you have so many antibodies that agglutinates and turns to another virus. And then your hormones, of course, they're a response to the fight or flight type of manifestations from imbalances. And so now you're just a mess. Now you're just a mess. And so when you start correcting those messes, it's painful. And so, yeah, and that's when, so when you let yourself get to a point to where you're being diagnosed with a major chronic disorder or cancer, most likely, you're not going to probably do the JGS. Some people will. Some people have said that they've had somebody that was, I don't know, in hospice or stage 4 or something. Some people have said that they've reversed their cancer through JGS. I've had somebody say they reversed their cancer through JGS. But they took it on themselves. They had a partner that supported themselves and everything. Okay, they showed me the x-rays of the cancers becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. But that's because she took it on herself. She knew exactly. She was still in a sound mind. She was in stage 1. And then, and she was open to this. And so, so it worked for her. So now she has to work on her other mutations, because as soon as you reverse your cancer with whatever it is, I don't care what you say, you reversed your cancer or gone to remission, there's still other systems and other things in your body that have to be addressed. So, just simply beating cancer is not enough, because as soon as you do things to beat your cancer, it's going to then tax your antibodies. It's going to create more antibodies because you're taking on all of these types of pathogens, antibiotics, because that's what the different anti-inflammatories, the antibiotics, the detoxes, salt flushes. Okay, so Jilly Juice is not a salt flush, but salt flushes are basically, it's reflecting back the state of your mutations. So it really isn't repairing the damage, it's just energizing your mutations. Okay, and so that's why salt flushes have never really been known to do too much. That's why the saline solutions at the hospitals are only for specific things to get you stabilized, but it's not used to actually reverse somebody's condition, or else we wouldn't have any cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because all we got to do is go to the hospital, get a saline solution, and we're all better. But we know that's not happening. But we know that salt is a good balancing force, and it is an energizing force, but what it energizes is the difference. What it energizes is the difference. And when you energize the minerals, when you energize the lactobacillus, when you energize the nutrients, and then you energize your body and you allow it to work the way it's supposed to, you're going to start seeing results. And that's the difference. Okay? But no, when you're taking on antibiotics, you're basically taking on more antibodies that are going to agglutinate, that are going to then chip away at the weaknesses of your body, and then you start seeing yourself age. So maybe you beat cancer, maybe you beat some kind of like autoimmune disorder, but now you have a rapid aging process, because believe me, anyone that deals with cancer and maybe beat it with some kind of antibiotic, they will never ever stay away from that antibiotic. It could be cannabis. It could be like, some kind of detox. It could be colloidal silver. It could be a bunch of other things. And so, yeah, people can harp on the holistic world and the allopathic world, but taking a pill or a powder or a prescription drug or a procedure where you take out organs is really no better. Okay? Just because you get the elements in a pill form as a prescription drug is really no different than black salve, no different than the urine therapy. Okay, because they're all the same stuff. It's all negative elements. So you take it in urine, which is not good anyways, it's gross, or you take it in a prescription drug, it still has the same effect. It's still antibiotic, because you're taking on negative elements or throwing the balance off. It's not friendly to the laws of your immune system. See, that's the difference. So yeah, we have people that are disparaging other people's protocols, but they're doing and using the same protocols, but in a different form. See, that's where the whole thing with chemistry escapes a lot of the allopathic and holistic. They're so used to the marketing. Oh, it's black salve versus a prescription drug. It must be better. Oh, it's cannabis. It's natural. Everything is natural, but it's the type of element and how it corresponds to your body is the difference. Okay? So, so this is just a lesson for all of you. Hopefully you can lead your life in such a way where you don't have to get faced with this type of situation. And if you do, it's not a death sentence. However, do you have a support system if you really want to take on a protocol that forces you to deal with pain? Because some of you aren't really doing JGS. Maybe you're doing it here and there, I don't know, or not doing it at all, and you're just listening to me, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm not sick, I'm good. And then one day you get a diagnosis, and now you want to do JGS. And you're just like, it's too hard. You're like, I don't care. I'd rather eat my lobster. I would rather do this. I would rather do my activism. I'd rather do, you're going to find every excuse not to. And then maybe you do JGS a little bit here and there, but oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. Oh, it didn't work. It's not strong enough. No, because you let yourself get to a point to where now you're so far gone that you don't have the strength to fight the battle. That's what will happen for those that'll let themselves go to such an extent, and then they want to do the JGS as soon as a major red flag appears. And then by that time, they may not have the strength to fight the battle. Thanks, Krista. And then it's JGS's fault. Oh, it's not strong enough. Oh, it's not going to work. Let's demonize Jillian. And some are just afraid because they don't understand, so whatever. But I don't want any of you guys to get to a point where you get diagnosis and now you're forced. When your back's against the wall, and you choose JGS, it's too late. It is too late. Because I'll tell you what, the healing's going to suck. Your family is going to be like so worried about you. They're going to read all the articles. They're going to say, oh my God, Jillian's killing everybody. No, it's too late. Don't let yourself get to the point of where you're diagnosed with a freaking disease, especially if you're listening to me. If you're listening to me and you're getting diagnosed with a disease and you've had access to this for the last 2 years, shame on you. Okay? Those that don't even try JGS, I don't even worry about it because they will never try it. So they never can blame me for it, but they'll definitely try to legislate somebody else if they should do it or not. Okay? But I don't worry about them. They're never going to blame me for their diseases because they're never going to do this. So it doesn't even matter. But those have access to me and you get diagnosed with the disease, shame on you. You shouldn't get to that point. You've been exposed to this information. What stopped you? Because it's the pain. Because it's easier to do activism and it's easier to blame, it's easier to go promote all the different political platforms than to really look within. It's easier to worry about what everybody else is doing than to actually fix yourself. So that's why I got off the activism. That's why I've shed a lot of activists off my Facebook. A lot. Because now I see that activism, really, truly, all types of activism is completely counterproductive to the trajectory, the real true trajectory of where humanity should go. Okay? Because if you're mutated and you're sick and you're full of cancer disease and chronic illness, your activism is going to do you no good when you're dead. When the next 10 years, all of your rah rah sis boom bah is now in the grave. Nobody hears from you anymore. So that whole argument about being anti-vax is gone. Maybe you'll pass it down to your kids, they be anti-vax, but then you know what? With the mutations compounding each other, every generation has a shorter lifespan. So, it's your choice. But yeah, I'm done with the activism. I really, truly am, because I got activists against me and now I'm like, oh my God, I see exactly the ignorance that I perpetrated on humanity because of my fear, because of my demonizing things I shouldn't have demonized, because I didn't know enough to understand why certain things exist. And then I didn't get myself better, I made myself worse. So I'm just giving this as a point to all of you that are still stuck in your activism. You are on the death trajectory. You are on your way to triggering some disease. Okay? I don't plan to be in fights my whole life. I really don't. And I don't want to be in fights my whole life. I don't. Fighting sucks. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's not. You have to pick and choose your battles. And I think the battle for yourself is far more worth it than trying to fight a battle that you know you really can't win. Because even if you say, okay, nobody gets a vaccine, guess what? We have people who don't take care of themselves who then create disease and then they pass it to another person and another person has a very weakened immune system, a weakened body, and guess what? That disease kills them because they don't have any protection and then they also have a weakened body. So your whole anti-vax approach has completely undermined the real true message that you're sending is save humanity. No, I'm sorry, but you just contributed to the weakness and the death of humanity being on your anti-vax platform. But I can say this now because I've finally come to a point of balance. But I can say this now. How many are you even somewhat near balance? Some of you are not even anywhere near balance. You talk a good game, but you're not really truly on your way to a good balance because you're not doing the J-juice and you're still stuck in your activism. But, I've been doing a lot of soul searching the last 2 weeks, and there are some battles that are worth fighting, other battles that are not worth fighting, and you got to pick and choose the battles. And really, your sanity, your health is far more important than trying to legislate morals onto other people. Your health is far more important than trying to ram your thought process down someone's throat who doesn't give a shit about you, who doesn't even know your name. So, anyways, y'all have a good day, but don't ever get to the point where you get diagnosed with a disease, because by that time, I don't want to say it's too late, but for a lot of you, it may be too late. And that's the reality of it. I mean, you look at statistically, cross-section of the population, especially around J-juice, how many know about J juice, how many have basically stepped away from J juice and they're dealing with a major disease. There was a few. So, all right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.